If you think every child raised by relatives is loved, then you have not heard Amara's story. Amara lost her parents before life even explained itself to her. One day, her home was filled with voices and laughter. The next, the house was quiet, and her name was being discussed like a problem that needed solving. After the burial, the elders decided she should live with her aunt, Aunty Neka. At first, people said at least she is with family, but love is not guaranteed by blood. Amara had heard Aunty Neka's name mentioned once or twice when her parents were alive, but she had never stayed with her before. Nobody explained why Aunty Neka agreed to take her in, and nobody explained why her heart was so hard. Maybe life made her that way. Amara never found out. Aunty Neka had a daughter, Ada. They were almost the same age. Ada was gentle and soft-spoken, kind in ways her mother was not. But kindness in that house had limits. As the years passed, Amara grew, but not like other children. She grew into responsibility too early. From the first week, she became the house help without pay. She woke before dawn to sweep the compound while Ada prepared for school. She cooked food she was not allowed to eat. When visitors came, Amara served them and disappeared. If Ada made a mistake, Amara took the beating. If water finished, Amara was blamed. If food burnt, Amara was shouted at. Even when Ada tried to help her, Aunty Neka would snap, "Leave her, she must know her place." At night, Amara lay on a thin mat, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had done wrong in a life she barely started. Then one evening, after another long day of shouting, Aunty Neka looked at her differently. Cold, final. "You cannot stay here anymore." There was no warning, no discussion. Just like that, the years she had spent there meant nothing. The next morning, Amara packed her few clothes into a small nylon bag and stepped out of the compound. She did not know where she was going, only that she was no longer wanted. As she walked away from the village, one question followed her like a shadow. Where does a child go when even family sends her away? She walked for hours, following the road without knowing where it led. Her feet were tired, her bag was light, and her heart was heavy. By the time the village disappeared behind her, the world already felt bigger and colder. That was how she entered the city. The city did not ask Amara where she was coming from. It asked only one question: can you survive? The first night, she slept with one eye open. The ground was cold, her stomach empty, and fear sat beside her like an unwanted friend. By morning, she joined the rush of people moving with purpose, even though she had none. She did odd jobs to stay alive. She carried heavy loads in the market for people who barely looked at her face. Some days, kind strangers gave her food. Other days, she went to bed hungry, hugging herself and whispering prayers she barely understood. Many people tried to take advantage of her. Some promised help with conditions she did not like. Amara always walked away. Hunger was painful, but losing herself felt worse. Eventually, she got a job at a small roadside buka. Every morning, she scrubbed plates until her hands burnt. The owner shouted often about slow work, broken plates, or nothing at all. Customers watched her like she was part of the furniture. Mrs. Johnson was one of them. She came almost every day after work, always neat, always quiet. She noticed how Amara greeted customers respectfully, even when they spoke to her anyhow. She noticed how Amara waited to eat leftovers only after everyone else had finished. She noticed the way Amara rubbed her wrists in pain when she thought nobody was watching. Day after day, Mrs. Johnson said nothing. She only watched. One hot afternoon, the buka was unusually busy. Orders piled up, Heat rose from the fire. Amara had not eaten since the previous night. Her head began to spin, but she kept working. Then her hands missed a plate. It shattered. Everyone turned. The buka owner exploded. "Are you mad? Do you know how much that plate costs?" Before Amara could speak, her legs gave way. She collapsed, knocking over more plates. The sound drew attention. People stared. Some laughed. The owner's face hardened. "Get up! Don't bring your sickness here. Leave my shop now." She dragged her toward the roadside. That was when Mrs. Johnson stood up. Her voice was calm, but it stopped everything. "Leave her!" She helped Amara sit down and gave her some water. The buka owner tried to argue, but one look from Mrs. Johnson silenced her. Mrs. Johnson did not rush her. She waited. When Amara could finally speak, she asked gently, "Are you okay, dear? Where do you live?" Amara shook her head. She had no answer. Mrs. Johnson looked at her for a long moment and said, "You can come with me. You will rest first, then we will talk." That night, Amara slept on a bed for the first time since her parents' death. No shouting, no fear. Over the next few days, Mrs. Johnson listened. She asked about Amara, her parents, and her family. Amara told her about Aunty Neka and Ada, her only family members back in the village, and then about survival in the city. Mrs. Johnson held her hand. She offered her a place in her home, not just to work, but to stay. Days passed, and Mrs. Johnson began to ask questions she had never asked before. "Do you like school? What do you want to become?" No one had ever asked Amara such things. At first, she did not know how to answer. Slowly, she found her voice. Mrs. Johnson's husband had died years earlier. The house had grown quiet after his passing, and with no children of her own, she had learned to live with a space she never spoke about. Amara did not replace that loss, but she filled the home with a kind of life Mrs. Johnson thought had ended for her. Without announcing it, she began to treat Amara like family. She bought her decent clothes. She enrolled her in school. She defended her when neighbors talked. "Leave her," Mrs. Johnson would say. "She is with me." Amara worked hard in the house and even harder in school. Some nights she cried quietly, not from pain but from gratitude. The girl who once slept on the floor now had books, food, and hope. Years passed. Amara grew into a confident young woman. Education opened doors her past had tried to shut forever. She remembered where she came from, but she no longer lived there in her thoughts. Sometimes her mind returned to the village. She thought of Aunty Neka, not with anger, but with a quiet understanding she could not fully explain. Life had been hard, and Amara chose to move forward without carrying bitterness on her back. She also thought of Ada, the girl who had been kinder than circumstances allowed. Amara wondered what life had made of her and hoped that one day their paths would cross again, not to reopen old wounds, but to prove that kindness, even when small, survives time. One morning, Amara looked at herself and felt whole. The pain that once shaped her had softened into wisdom, and she understood something at last. That family is not always who takes you in, but who refuses to send you away. Your beginning may be painful, but kindness can rewrite your destiny. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want more, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us grow.